Love is a superpower. It disarms pain and suffering. It disarms abusers. It literally removes the power from them. And then you are choosing to walk as if heaven on earth exists now. You can see God when you see things that are good, when you see things that are kind, when you start realizing that we're all one, that we're all in this unified field. There's no more harm that you can do to anyone else. Hi there, my name is Scarlet Ravin, and I've had a near-death experience that occurred 6 years ago. The personal beliefs that I carry before the near-death experience was really centered around concepts that I thought were spiritual, but they were primarily ego-based. So I wasn't really a God person. I was someone who believed that I could create my own reality without incorporating God. And I believed that I could accomplish anything, which I still believe, but now I do it with God and in alignment with God's will. So that was prior to my NDE. And then after my NDE, God is the center of my life, surrendering to God's will and allowing the energy of God to move through me is my primary belief structure. And that God is inside of me, God is around me, God is everything that's good. The Holy Spirit is the action of God moving through me. And when I compare the two belief structures that I had, one prior to my NDE and one after my NDE, my beliefs that I have now after the NDE, I feel completely held all the time. I feel like no matter what happens, I am going to be totally fine. And I didn't have that stability or that centeredness before this all happened. It was very much me against the world type of a belief structure. So what led to my near-death experience was I was in a partnership at the time, and this person was basically saying like, our relationship won't work out because of my depression. And so a lot of what I did with us and for him as a couple was to try and cheer him up and make him feel seen and loved. So I had some extra money and his birthday was coming up, and I said, where do you want to go? We can go anywhere you want to go. I will take you on a 5-star luxury vacation and pay for everything, and we can just enjoy one another and feel happy, hopefully, right? So he chose Sri Lanka. And this was, the trip was to commence December 21st of 2019. So we fly to Sri Lanka, which was a 36-hour travel thing. It's a very, very far. And I remember that as I landed in Sri Lanka, I could feel my throat starting to close up. And because of the destination of where we were going, I'm an herbalist and a healer, and I didn't bring anything with me because they do not stand for, I didn't want to get shot, basically. I didn't want to bring something that could have upsetted their policies. And I thought it's better to be safe than sorry. I'm not going to bring anything. I didn't have echinacea. I didn't have vitamin C. I didn't have my zinc, right? The colloidal silver. I didn't have anything. So I know that I'm starting to get sick, and I'm just hoping that if I rest a little bit, it'll pass quickly and I'll be able to enjoy the vacation. It was about an hour drive from the airport to where our first location was, and this was a 2-week trip. We had a driver, and we were going to go see all these different sacred temples and stay in all of these really, really nice resorts, because to get a 5-star accommodation in Sri Lanka would be like paying for a 1-star accommodation in California, where I was living at the time. So we felt really wealthy, even though we didn't have to spend that much money. But we get to the hotel, and it's still early on in the day. So part of me wants to push myself and see like if I can go and explore. And he really wanted to go explore and start shopping for gems. Sri Lanka is like a hub for gems, and he was a jeweler. So part of me started becoming aware of like, oh, he chose this destination not for us, but to like have this business opportunity for his company. So we're walking around and we're going in and out of stores, and all of a sudden I start not being able to breathe. And what it felt like was like I was trying to get air in, and it didn't matter like how hard I pulled air in. It was like I couldn't get any air. So I started feeling like I was like, God, I really can't breathe. And I told him, I said, I can't breathe. I have to go back to the hotel immediately. Like I don't feel okay at all. And the transportation that they had there were tuk-tuks. So it's, you know, like one wheel in the front and then this kind of little carriage situation where two people can fit in the back. And he was like, well, I want to keep shopping. So like just go back to the hotel. So I get a tuk-tuk, which I was really scared, to be honest. Like to be alone in a country, I felt like I couldn't breathe. I was starting to get dizzy. I was holding myself up with like the side of a store wall while I was trying to like flag a tuk-tuk. And one guy saw that I was really struggling and he came up to me and he's like, "Do you need help? Like you don't look well. Like you're pale, you're ashen." And I said, "I need to get back to my hotel. I don't feel good." And so he set me up with a tuk-tuk. He got me in. I get back to the hotel and I just like collapse onto the bed and I'm out, totally asleep. And the next thing I remember is he comes in and kind of shakes me awake. And I was completely delirious. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what day it was. I didn't know how I got there. And my fever, at that point, I had a fever that was so hot that my body was in so much physical pain. And then on top of all of that, I couldn't breathe. And I would be like, I felt like I had to go to the bathroom, but to walk, you have to breathe. And so it was like, oh, I would take one step and I would just stand there and say, God, I really hope I can make it to the bathroom. I really hope I can make it to the bathroom. And my struggle was so apparent. The person that I was with, he was like, looks like you have to go to the hospital. Like, this isn't right. And so we call the manager of the hotel. We find out where the hospital is. He gets us a tuk-tuk, go to the hospital. It's a third world country, and not that that's good or bad, but it's just different offerings in terms of healthcare. And I actually really traditionally prefer the alternative methods of healthcare, and Sri Lanka has a really strong Ayurvedic medicinal presence. But that part of where we were in Sri Lanka was just, it was just all minimal. They didn't have Ayurvedic doctors. They had a few doctors that were in the hospital, but the hospital was like dirt floors, you know, goats walking around kind of a thing. And then we had this language barrier. So basically I just was like, I can't breathe, no energy, like fever is really high. And then there was like 7 different prescriptions that was on this paper. Go to the pharmacy, we fill them, get back to the hotel, and I'm Googling like what each one is so that I know what I can take for myself and what I don't take. And it turned out that I could take one of them was an antibiotic. So I was like, I'm going to take that. And I tried to take it, but my throat was closing up and I couldn't eat. And it wasn't that I couldn't eat, but like I didn't want to eat. Like the thought of food made me so incredibly sick. I tried to eat a cracker with the pill, the antibiotics, and it didn't work out. So basically I was just sleeping on and off, and he wanted to go and explore. And my pain levels at that point from the fever were so high, like so incredibly high. And when you get to a certain level of pain, when you're feeling it, it's almost like death would be better. And I realized I was like, I can't survive this pain. It's the pain that's really, really intense and feels like I'm not going to make it. And he wanted to go and shop again. And I said, while you're out, will you please buy me like Advil or ibuprofen or just like something to cut the pain into? Because I can't survive this pain. I was like, I can't survive this pain. And he says, yeah, you know, I'll go and I'll bring that back to you. So I pass out again. I don't know when he came back, but he comes back in, and I'm like so excited because I'm thinking he's got ibuprofen or something. And I'm like, can I please have the painkillers? Like, I'm really struggling. And he's like, oh, I forgot. And at that point, when that happened, it wasn't just that my body was failing and I was extremely ill and I had no one to talk to because of the language barrier, but then I had like no medicine that I thought was relevant to what I was experiencing. And then I had nothing to cut the pain into. And then it turns out that like the person I chose to bring on this vacation didn't actually care about me or my well-being. That emotional wound compounded my physical pain, if that makes sense. Like if you're in a lot of physical pain and you're surrounded by people that love you and they're caring for you and they're helping you, it's almost like it's easier to heal. But if you're in a situation where you don't know anyone, you're, over 24 hours from the people that do love you and do care about you, you're in the middle of nowhere, Sri Lanka, and the one person that went with you, you realize doesn't actually care about your well-being. That's what really kicked off my NDE. It was the whole combination of the whole situation. So I looked at him and I realized like, okay, so this person doesn't care about me. I was wrong about that, but I can't deal with that right now. And then I just kind of closed my eyes and I laid in bed, and I was so emotionally wounded, but then also so physically out of any ounce of energy to try and survive anymore. I just said in my head, and you have to remember, like, I wasn't a God person up until this point, but I knew the word God, and I thought, this is it. Like, this is going to be how I die, in the middle of nowhere, away from my cats and my mom. And I was really upset. And so I said, God, just take me. Just have me. I said, if this is how you want my ending to be, I'm getting emotional because I can remember that moment. But I said, if this is how you want my ending to be, you can have it this way. I surrender everything to you. I surrender everything to you completely. Just please take this pain away. I can't feel this anymore. And as soon as I said that, it wasn't like I was aware that I left my body. And I don't even know if I did leave my body, but I certainly was unconscious. But I was with God. All of a sudden, it was me and it was God. And I was this profound, beautiful light. And I was surrounded by this even more profound, beautiful light. And all I felt, everything that I was craving to feel while I was struggling with this illness, I was given in that space with God. And I felt unconditionally loved. When I describe this part of being with God, words fall so short of the actual felt experience. I was experiencing eternal peace. I was experiencing eternal love. I was experiencing like the universe, and it felt like everything was in its perfect place. Like nothing had to change. Everything was perfectly aligned. I had gone home to where I came from. There was zero pain I was feeling. It was all just love, no suffering, completely held. It felt like I was in that place. I mean, it felt eternal. Like, to compare it to minutes or how long that went on, I don't know. The person I was with wasn't like checking on the situation, so I didn't have feedback of what was going on with my actual physical body. But I got that experience. I got that relief. I got that eternal love. And then it was like all of a sudden I was back in my body, and that experience had ended. And there wasn't something that precipitated it, or like I didn't ask for it. It was more like when I was with God, I was in this state of wonder and just total completeness. And then when I got back into my body, I felt like my soul had kind of been like compressed a bit. Like there was definitely this moment of like shock of like, oh God, the density is back, the pain is back, but the pain had been cut in half. So what had previously felt completely unbearable and like I wanted to die. I was like, no one should have to experience this level of pain for this long. This is torture. And then I got that eternal peace experience and that eternal love. And I felt God. I was with God. And then I get back in my body and the pain is cut in half. And I went through the rest of the trip healing, and when we got to more of the city aspect of this island, there was great healthcare facilities. There was incredible Ayurvedic doctors. I actually still have my x-ray of my lungs. They're like these huge, like x-ray kind of pieces of plastic that they took in that hospital of my lungs. And the Ayurvedic doctor was like, looks like, the worst has passed. And she gave me a bunch of Ayurvedic medicinals, which is like vitamins and herbs and oils and stuff, which I love. And that kind of recuperated my immune system. I really feel like if I didn't have that experience with God, where part of me got healed when I was with Him, I would have not made it. Like, how has my life changed and how are my perspectives or relationships shifted from this experience? Well, number one, like, I realized that I wasn't partnered with someone who was a good fit for me. So that was a huge eye opener that ended when we got back to the States. And because of the fierce betrayal in that relationship of serving someone and then realizing that that person was just using you for the financial and the housing benefits, that level of betrayal I hadn't really ever felt in my life before. I mean, I dated men that weren't nice, but at least they were like obviously not nice. The manipulation not nice is almost worse to take emotionally. So in order for me to receive the benefits of how profound that NDE was, I had to get over the pain of that relationship. And that took a few years. And then after I had gotten over that pain of that relationship, I started realizing, because I'm a meditator and I'm a very spiritual person and I teach online workshops and I help people heal themselves. I help people find God now because I know the experience of God. When I'm meditating and when I am seeking for my humanness to merge with the divinity inside of me, with my own soul, in my own heart, I know what that experience feels like. It's not like I'm meditating hoping to have an experience that feels good. I know what I'm going towards. So it's easy now for me to feel that eternal, unconditional love of God, to know without, like, it's an embodied knowing that God is inside of me, that no matter what's going on this planet, God is with me. And if I'm ever going to feel pain, I can surrender the pain to God and God will take it. And so now I'm a huge God person, whereas prior I wasn't. I'm a huge God person. I'm a huge Jesus person. I love the Holy Spirit. I'm not a Christian, but I have realized that God is 100% real. Surrendering to God 100% works. Giving yourself over to Christ consciousness within you does upgrade your systems. All of these things are 100% real and in a knowing felt expression for me because of that experience. And it's helped me counsel people and lead people back inside their own bodies to find God. God's not outside of ourselves. God's not looking up. It's like, God, I pray to you. I pray to you. It's not like that. God's in your body. When you give your body over fully to the God inside, that's what I did. And that's how I had my experience. So now that I know God is inside of me, And I know that I'm this sacred being here to serve others and to give others an opportunity to expand and raise their awareness to have these experiences, because the truth, the highest truth of all of this to me was you don't have to be dying to experience God. You can align your awareness and you can consciously surrender to God at any moment and have that same felt feeling that I had. And I was able to have it because it was a complete surrender. There wasn't one part of me that wanted to stay. There wasn't one part of me that was holding back. It was like, I'm done. Here's my white flag. Thank you for the opportunity of getting to explore Earth. Hopefully I'll come back again and have a longer life some other time, but I'm cool with it being done. So it's that fullness of surrender that you can give to have this merging with God experience on Earth now. The highest insight that I would take away from all of this would be that no matter what is happening, no matter how crazy things look on the outside, there is always this heaven present inside of all of us. And that heaven is the resonance of all that's good, which is the resonance of God. God is, you can see God when you see things that are good, when you see things that are kind, when you see things that are loving and unconditionally loving, when you see things that are caring and beautiful, that's God. And then when you see things that are destructive or murderous or ugly, right? Ugly meaning like abusive or separate from God, that's the creation of the ego inside of the human. That's not God. Those are delusions and miscreations through a lack of understanding that the human has. So as we evolve, we start realizing that we're unified. We're not separate from each other. Just because I have a different body and you have a different body and you're looking at me and you're thinking, she's separate from me, we're not. We're the exact same energetic field. We just have different expressions right now so that we can learn and we can grow. And when you start realizing that we're all one, that we're all in this unified field, there's no more harm that you can do to anyone else. You don't even want to think bad thoughts about anyone else because you know that in the blanket of energetic frequencies, it's just going directly to yourself because you're not separate. So you start to harness seeing this world through the eyes of God. And that was, I would say, my key takeaway is this gave me the felt experience of being one with God, which was eternal bliss, eternal peace, eternal love, feelings that words can't explain. And then you have that partnered with how God sees this world. And God only sees love. God only sees devotion. God only sees compassion. God only sees what's good. And it's our job as a human to obtain the vision of God, to live and move through this world the way God sees, while in the human body, while honoring the human body like it's the sacred altar for our soul to be able to move through the earth. Without the body, we don't get to have any of these experiences. So to know that the human body is just as holy as the human soul, and that everything can be merged together in this state of unconditional love in your heart, and then your mind actually merges and comes back into this place of wholeness, and the ego can no longer miscreate because the ego has been merged back into the whole system, back into wholeness, back into completeness, which is just love. It's just the feeling of just love. So when you look at people outside of, like when I look at people outside of myself now, I just feel love. A particular aspect of my NDE that I haven't shared publicly is that the person that was my partner that represented like abandonment and just, I don't even know what to say. There was definitely emotional abuse in that relationship. That person wasn't the bad. There wasn't a good and there wasn't a bad in this circumstance. That person was a gift to my soul to be able to learn how to love no matter what. And if we don't have these opportunities where there's a darkness that's presented to us, like someone who's supposed to love us is actually kind of abusing us, and we're presented with this darkness. If we don't choose to love that person, we don't get to see how strong our soul really is. If we fall back into the judgments of the ego and we allow this pain and suffering story to kind of flood our reality, and we don't see that every single situation that we are presented with or that we walk through in this world, if we don't see those situations as opportunities to love no matter what, to see how warrior and strong our wings are, our unconditional love is, that we are this fractional aspect of God. So everything we do is holy, everything we do is filled with love. That's when we're in alignment with our soul and our higher self. That I wouldn't have been able to have this experience or see how I was one with God or feel that I was one with God without this actor, this person, right? So this way of looking at the world really helps to cultivate that unified consciousness, because you can't just pick things out and say, well, how can everything be unified? Because there's murderers, there's all these things that are just totally crazy out there that are not good. How can you love all of that? Well, it's love that's going to transform all of that. It's our warrior souls that are filled with unconditional love that are here to transform all of that. Does that mean you stay in the relationship and you put up with it? Absolutely not. You don't. You leave the relationship because you're worth heaven on earth. You're worth only heaven experiences. But it's up to you to cultivate yourself to that level of self-worth, and then cultivate yourself and take responsibility that you are only offering love. You can't point your finger at someone and say, they're wrong, they're bad, what they did was awful, I'm right, I'm better, I wouldn't do that. You're literally doing it in that moment that you're pointing at someone else. You're choosing not to love someone because you're judging them, right? So when you listen to sacred stories of like ascended masters like Kuan Yin, she was the ascended priestess of compassion and love to her father that was an abuser. And if you research that story and you listen to it and you see what I'm talking about, love is a superpower. It disarms pain and suffering. It disarms abusers. It literally removes the power from them. And then you are choosing to walk as if heaven on earth exists now. You're choosing to unconditionally love and respect everyone around you. And if it's someone that's doing bad things or things you don't agree with, then you can recognize that those people are there to show you how to love more. You don't have to agree with what they're doing. You don't have to support what they're doing, but in your body and what you feel about that person, that is your responsibility. So that's the biggest takeaway, is that we have a choice to love. It's our choice. And the more people that choose this way of operating, the more heaven on earth we're going to see form around us. My final thought and my wisdom that I would like to leave you with is always choose love. And it has to start with loving yourself. It has to start with you fully being in your body, loving your body, realizing that God is a part of your body, realizing that this part of your body, this heart, is where your heart and your soul is. When you know what you are, you know how to operate in a divine way. So you are a body, you are human, you are also a divine soul. You're both. And the way to merge this, as well as merging it with your ego, is through love. Unconditional love. I am here to serve you and remind you of the love that you are. So my website is scarletravin.com. Thank you so much for listening to me. And I pray that You have the most beautiful, enlightened day.